Alright, so hello, everybody. My name is Swim. Well, today I'm also going to be talking about. Today I'm going to talk about the Billionaire Tax Initiative, which is Prop 40. Now, it's known as. And also. And yeah, I'll be talking about the federal version of it too. And there's also a federal version of this bill, of this proposition as well. A federal bill version of it, yeah. It's called the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. And I can't, and if I check it out right now, it says attention required. So I can't show it to you right now. I'm about to show it to you later, maybe tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll show it to you. And it'll be part of this video, hopefully. But yeah. But I'll tell you what the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act is. It's a proposed federal wealth tax introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Paul J. Powell. It targets of American households of 2% annual tax worth of 50% million and 1 million of digital revenue worth over 1 million over 1 billion. Yeah, and it's known as in the House the number is HR 8085, the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. So, if you oppose this bill, the best you can do is call your local representatives about this bill if you oppose it anyway. I already called mine, but I just don't know if you need to vote yes or no on it. I just told mine anyway. But you can. But if you oppose this, then I'm not a vote no on this bill anyway. But we also got a state version of this. You know, like I also got a proposition for this. So. Yep, Prop 40, which is the Billionaire Tax Initiative. See, one-time wealth tax, see? And here's Gavin Newsom right here. Newsom proposed this act opposing the state billionaire tax but raising a federal one. I'll get into that, but yes. But there's already a federal version of it called the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. So. So the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. It's a federal bill. It becomes signed into law, I believe. And everybody, I think, in people in all 50 states, including millionaires and billionaires, will have to pay taxes. And you know that's why. If you do oppose this, though, the best thing you can do is call your local representatives and tell them to vote no. You know, that's what you can say about that anyway. And yeah, and you can ask them to vote no if you oppose this anyway. But you also got Prop 40, so that's why. If you oppose Prop 40, then yeah, the answer is vote no. Right here. So Prop 40 is essentially sold as billionaire tax, but it's really everybody's tax worse. It creates a First Nation wealth tax or saving tax on California. It's Prop 40 allows the government to tax your savings and checkings account, 141,000, stock portfolio, and court equality in your home. If you don't want, you don't want to have cash to pay with the wealth tax, and you need to be forced to somewhat your own. Prop 40 contains provision allowing state politicians to expand the wealth tax to everyone. Without another vote for the public. Yes, Mom? Okay, Mom. So that's what 40 is. And you can guide it right here if you want to anyway. So, and you have to go out to eat anyway, and I will show you. Yeah, I'll show you this bill later. Maybe tomorrow I can show it to you anyway. Well, maybe, because I don't think I'll be able to do it when I come back from meeting anyway. But at least I just showed you right now anyway. Anyway, I have to go out to eat now. So, guys, I'll be right back anyways. Oh yeah, and I forgot to show you. So Gavin Newsom is also proposing, is trying to oppose a state billionaire tax, but raise a federal one. I'll read about that too, but later, okay? Maybe tomorrow I'll read it to you anyway, because I gotta go out to eat right now. But guys, I'll be right back anyways. So I'll see you later, guys. I'll just be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. So, hello, okay, friends, I'm back, and now I'm going to talk about this bill now. So, this bill is called H.R. 8085, the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. Anyway, and I know it just got introduced. It's not law yet, so it probably won't become law until until maybe either next year or the year after. I don't know yet, but the best that you can do, since it's a wealth tax bill, the best you can do is, if you oppose this bill, the best thing you can do is to call your local representatives and tell them to vote no on this bill. If you oppose this anyway, just saying, if you do. Oh, and if you do oppose, Prop 40, then vote no on Prop 40. Just saying, if you do. If you support it, then vote yes. Just saying anyway. You know. Alright. And now let's talk about Gavin Newsom. So, Gavin Newsom's proposed act opposes state billionaire tax, but embrace a federal one. Well, there already is one very similar. There's already a federal one very similar to this. You know, H.R. 885, Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. It's a federal billionaire tax, I believe. Yeah, it's called the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. Yep, it's a federal wealth tax, all right. Let's see. So yes, we're here. Be prepared for California's general election. Sign up for election newsletter. Get breaking news of races. So, Governor Gavin Newsom is a population error. It's a population error. He started the year vowing to destroy corporate investors from buying up large tracts of single-family homes, steered by Socialist and President Donald Trump. Last month, after he was unable to keep a proposal from tax California billionaires from appearing voters' ballots. He tried to debate pinching nationwide higher taxes on the wealthy. Last week, he spoke covered national Intiative policymakers about the need of democratize the economy. In the face of budget intelligence, even job losses, Newsom's proposed appeals of the leave office took expected 2028 presidential campaign on the widespread anxiety on the wealth inequality and effects of AI economy on future probability. The old bargain is dead, and AI is going to finish it off. He said last week in Los Angeles, if the cost of Americans could concept families with working class jobs, we need to wake up in that foundation reality. The poster of the new territory for Newsom is not the natural populist and maintain his long-standing relationships with wealthy tech donors who railed against proposed Billionaire tax Proposition 40. As governor, he has kept his image as liberal who favors progressive income taxes and expanding the social society safety net. Without teetering too far into the overly risky bit of politics and democratic socialists. He skewed most new tax proposals and by several state corporate tax benefits the progressive have long to scrap. By focusing on AI-driven inequality now, Newsom is choosing the popular issue to find his expected 2028 run, but it's not yet clear whether folders will buy its solution. Newsom is balancing two pressures, said Kevin Leo, a Democratic strategist who worked on billionaire Tom Steyer tax the rich gubernatorial campaign this year. There is a desire to meet the demands of consultant of the current petite against billionaires and address of the massive wealth inequality and state of the country. And the cold political reality that much of his career and possibly his future positions also have been built on financial support from a lot of wealthy folks in Silicon Valley. 4 tax measures on the California ballot. As he adopts the most progressive posture while appearing on other states, Newsom is walking a fine line back home, where his vocal opposition to California's billionaire tax proposal could confuse voters starting at multiple tax measures on the November ballot. Proposition 3 is sponsored the California Teachers Association and also a tax on the rich. It would make permanent the state's higher income tax rates for the 2% of earners. That money goes into the state general fund of 40%, which pays for schools. Alright, voters approved those rates temporarily in 2012 and behest on the Governor Jerry Brown and extend them again in 2016. If they expire as planned in 2030, and the state stands to lose between $5 and $15 billion a year in revenue. Alright, early polling shows measure of the popular but CTA President David Goldberg acknowledged it would be tricky to the campaign for the another text on the ballot. and union opposes the billionaire tax because it would not send the promotion revenues to schools, instead prioritizing healthcare. So, folders have to be asked to weigh on 3 other tax-related ballot measures. 2 backed by tech billionaires decided to undercut the billionaire tax on one of the anti-tax advocacy that would make it harder for cities to raise local taxes. As for whether Proposition 40 could hinder public support on Proposition 3, Newsom told reporters recently, I hope that's not the case. That's a legitimate question. Has Newsom wants to be seen? For years, Newsom has defended California on Fox News and social media against the national reputation has over the tax, over arguing that lower and income families pay more taxes as to live in states like Florida and Texas. But basis on this claim of the study from of the Institute of the Taxation and Economic Policy that found Florida and Texas rely on heavily on property and sales taxes, which effectively take a higher share of those households' earnings and on those on the wealthiest. The states do not tax personal income. He taxes low-income workers more than he taxes millions and billionaires in the state of California. Newsom said that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis during the 2023 debate hosted by Fox's Sean Hannity. Critics say those that argue don't take into account the lower costs of goods and property in other states. Yeah, California is a high-tech state, said Jared Wolzak, a senior fellow of the right-leaning Tax Foundation. A state like California can give the way of higher rates in some other states because it's a state that has so much an offer. But it doesn't mean there is a tipping point. Now hearing the end of this term, Newsom is taunting around the progressive programs California's tax system has been possible, including universal school meals and subsidized childcare. And at the same time, Newsom often chides more left-wing colleagues in the legislature not to be profligate, but with public spending, he touts of the never raised at 8 years as governor, and now critics can quibble over limiting business tax deductions. Now, although he signed this month raising a tax on health insurance plans. When Democratic lawmakers pushed on a new revenue on the face budget deficits of the last 3 years, he quietly squashed the idea. He had well among higher tax rates in the United States of America, have high wage earners, amongst the high tax revenues or corporate taxes. He said down for the strong early have to live and with our means. This year, said Democrats insisted of the proposal to tax corporations whose workers earn so little that they qualify public health care. Newsom would agree only for the state to study the idea. He's never begged his dream. Okay. They never begged this drum. Okay, drum. You take a similar stance of the state billionaire tax, along with the conduct of the Democrat allies like Planned Parenthood. He argues that billionaires could easily move their assets to another state, or as some, like Google co-founder Sergey Brin, has done at their homes and businesses. Early polling shows that the majority of Californians support the measure. Newsom pressured the CIU, United Healthcare Workers West, to drop measure extreme for cassations, but he didn't succeed. He pivoted to proposing his own federal billionaires tax along the page of the progressive like Elizabeth Warren. He calls it minimum tax rate and anyone more than $100 million undoing the corporate state tax. It takes tax cuts like President Trump's and Congress approved 2017, boosting inheritance in taxes. In taxes. And closing loopholes and used in wealthy borrow unrealized capital gains and paying income taxes. Alright, so without getting into details, he said that he supports the idea of public using indirect wealth support displaced workers. Rome Stutzman, Sacramento Republican strategist, Newsom risk being seen as inauthentic in the primary campaign. He said that Vegas drum, but he has big suspender, but not a big taxer. So it's been said. This whole jiu-jitsu he has to do to oppose the billionaire tax. In his state and support it. Federally, it doesn't sound as authentic as it might sound on the soapbox at the Iowa State Fair. Voters are anxious about AI. Alright. The call, sharing wealth opens the door for anti-tax attacks on the right, and was eager to stay one of the Democratic policies to communism. Most Democrats have foresight to tie their tax hikes to the fair policy, but Newsom just wants to take their money, and because he wants to take your money. Republican National Committee spokesperson Nicholas Poach said on the emailed statement, criticizing Newsom to try having both ways and progressive establishment Democrats. But both political strategists agree that framing tax proposals as a response to a attorney appealing across the international spectrum. A wealth tax is a more simplistic and failing along ideological lines. Lyles said, if we're talking about a broad societal change, it would more wealth distribution, and saying that's going to touch every single person. More than half the Americans read about the technology will leave someone in their household jobless and going to send a precarity of these workers, customer service representatives of Silicon Valley's own elites. Meanwhile, the upcoming public affairs on AI, companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and expanded to turbocharge the nation's already equal distribution of wealth. The 10% of the country nearly owns 70% of its wealth, and the bottom half of it owns just 2.5%. Former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, known as the Murray defeat, and with more less regulations on the technology, has won precedent over basic income payments on displaced workers. President of the U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders are proposing National Sovereign Fund for the 50% wealth tax AI companies that would directly pay Americans, making them the nation essentially become part owner of AI. Even Vice President J.D. Vance is considering the issue, telling at the Pollgaster this month that it is big concern that AI is not the mass employment, but the breakup of the social harmony that comes increasing inequality. And if it makes the rich people way richer, if you're going to make significant problems, he said, that's one significance I see from AI. He said that Trump is generally supportive of the Sanders idea. And also that is developed crazy and many tech leaders during this second term. Many progressive holding their applause to Newsom for now. Lorena Gonzalez, leader of the California Labor Federation, and these pleas are driven equality and you instill a state of the world be placed of the massive discipline of workers. Newsom record of progressive nation of bans on their technology. Flank on their labor leaders, important of the state of the six earlier Gonzalez, president of the state unions of this good support. Newsom does not really use the technology. It's not used to say if you're paying, Gonzalez said. You don't think a constructed job loss is inevitable. Alright, so that's it. And I know this article is very recent, but I want to get into that, so that's why. Alright, now we can get into talking about so yeah, Gavin Newsom is just very stupid. He imposes a state billionaire tax, but he wants to embrace a federal one, and there's already, I believe, and there's probably already a federal one similar to his anyway. H.R. 8085, the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. You know, that's why I found anyway. Yeah. You can call your local representatives if you oppose this federal bill anyway. But that's... But we need to talk about the Democrat candidate, you know, Xavier Becerra. Does he support or oppose it? You see. Okay, does Xavier Becerra support billionaire tax? Okay, it says right here, no. Xavier Becerra does not support the California one-time billionaire tax initiative on the November ballot, despite starting that billionaires should pay higher taxes. The president proposed a measure calling it sketchy policy and arguing it consisted of revenue and rather flexing levy. And between us with him, Becerra alerts that no billionaires should pay taxes lower than teachers, firefighters, or nurses. He believes that ultra wealthy had not paid for their fair share. However, he rejects the ballot initiative structure, 1.5% charge, or could stabilize the budget for the United States of the state. Alternative proposals put in context instead of one-time wealth tax, but supports extending measures like Proposition 30 and 55 to fund schools and healthcare per day of income tax of high earners. This stands places opposition while Democratic candidate Tom Steyer, who champions the billionaire tax, while along with Gavin Newsom and also the Republican candidate Steve Hilton opposing the national initiative. Okay. And Google's not generating the overview right now, so I'll try again later. Or, okay, here it is. So Xavier Sarah does not support the specific California one-time billionaire wealth tax ballot initiative. It's a flawed policy, and it maintains unknown wealthy should pay the fair share. Stay on the billionaire tax. The initiative. The Sarah has started. But note to this initiative, calling this proposed billionaire share sketchy policy, a fair share view. He argues that no billionaire should pay any tax lower than teachers or firefighters or nurses. Now, alternative proposes. He faces a broader particular tax pages, policy charges, changes rather than the standalone tax proposal. Okay, now me and talk about Steve Hilton. All right, the Republican who is trying to run for governor of California. So, does Steve Hilton support billionaire tax? The answer is no, he does not. Okay, see, he strongly opposes the proposed billionaire tax in California. He argues that spending problem on the revenue problem and warns that such a tax will accelerate the high-income residents and businesses, ultimately hurting the economy and workers. The Republicans stated that California doesn't need a revenue problem, and higher taxes have failed in better results. Instead of getting people get hit, he contends that a billionaire tax would drive more jobs and investment out of the state, and nothing that millionaires already leaving due to the turn tax burden. Hilton's a billionaire himself who has received the campaign contributions of the tax billionaires like Sergey Brin, who also opposes the tax, and the proposal is tax instead income tax earnings. Not it's pulling in no digits to a basic billionaire tax proposal. So yeah, it's this regard. No, Steve Hilton does not support the billionaire tax. He strongly opposes California proposal well-timed tax bill initiative, arguing it will damage the state economy and drive wealth creators and jobs away. Now, companies position on taxes. Opposes the billionaire tax ballot measure. Opposes to amend state taxes on $100 in earnings. Advocates that the state of is instead of eliminating new levies. Well, if they both oppose it, that's the problem here. What if Steve Hilton wins and the billionaire tax passes anyway? That could be a problem. You see. Let's talk about Xavier Sarah. Well, if he wins and the billionaire's tax passes. No, I'm just saying, guys. I don't know. So let's see. So what Xavier will do? What Xavier Sarah will do if the Billionaire's tax passes? Well, let's see. Xavier Sarah opposes the 2026 one-time 5% Billionaire tax initiative currently on the ballot, arguing that it provides United States funding. He wins governorship, but the state does not. We're going to levy, but perverting the predictability of the state taxes. Let's go about the alternatives. Becerra frames opposition of the matter of fiscal governance, noting that California's massive ballot budget requires it consistent of the rather than one-time shot, and he argues that billionaires have and did not have a fair share of the existing tax measures, such as Proposition 55, creating new fees of population rather than of the single wealth assessment. Alright, he's doing a half, and there's a failed of the budget accessibility. What is the actions of the minister passes independently? The contest does not specify a contingency plan if the voters approve the initiative despite Becerra's opposition. However, the opinion of the Minister of Agriculture Policy, if the authority of government applied a secret appeal, modify, or challenge the petition, one-time tax of the strategies of this plan as a budget, including cuts and decreases ultra-wealthy in text or distributive channels. Yeah, I don't know. Even though I don't like him anyway, so I'll get into Steve Hilton after that. So Xavier Becerra opposes proposed one-time billionaire tax ballot measure, calling it sketchy policy, even though he argues ultra-wealthy even should pay more. If elected governor, well, tax passes, he would tax implementing and managing revenue while navigating his state concerns over its economic impact. Yeah, I know because Xavier Becerra wants more taxes to California. You know, he's opposing Prop 40, and yeah, I know he's just stupid anyway. In the opposing measure, Becerra has stated that yes on real revenue, but no on this initiative, criticizing the structure of $1 billion. Fund management. If passed, the initiative establishes the Canadian revenue found 90% of the money and 10% deduction of assistance, which Governor Becerra would oversee. Alright? And then potential challenges. Becerra, over critics have warned that targeted ultra wealthy residents of one-time more tax, encouraging billionaires and businesses to shift progressively of California and budgets of adjustments and budget of state budget conditions around multi-billionaire revenues, and great potential drops in residual income tax streams, and then higher earners relocate. All right, so that's what could happen. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I'm just looking at what Google's saying, but yeah, it could happen. So that's what could happen. Yeah, because Xavier Becerra does oppose the billionaire tax. But yeah. What about Steve Hilton, though? Yeah, the Republican candidate, Steve Hilton. Alright, so read this. So Steve Hilton instead stated that he will reject opposing a new wealth tax. If elected governor, arguing that state measure are completely insane for the economy, state income residents out of California. He then contends the state affairs of spending profit rather than revenue from pursuing offset his own tax cut, reducing their spending by approximately 1/3 rather than increasing taxes on the wealthy. As under a fiscal plan dubbed Cal Affordable, focused on eliminating state income tax earnings under $100,000, introducing a flat 7.5% rate on income above that threshold. Key components on this platform include naming $800 of minimum franchise tax for small business, regardless of profit. Remove state taxes and then tips for workers, cutting government blood of the subject without duties. And then opposing changes to Proposition 13. I know he wants to save Prop 13. I know that. I'll get into that in a different video though. Hilton. So Steve Hilton has warned that additional wealth taxes would further accelerate the exit of millionaires from the state, resulting in a lost revenue. So if his administration would likely to attempt to block or repeal such measures through executive action, or limiting his campaign and mandate the pressure of his Democratic majority in the legislature. So, yeah, if Stevens is elected governor, and Stevens strongly opposed this wealth levy filing instead of tax cuts, bold regulations about student relief. Governor fiscal approaches. So proposes a cutting of the third of the budget of the strategic reforms. Overall taxes. He makes the first of $1,000 and takes away of the threshold. Of this one deduction of rights toward the contingency of cost. He seeks something of environmental issues takes the super lower than cost of living. So yeah, I believe Stephen will try to block the billionaire tax. Prop 40, and if it passes, and he wins for governor anyway. And that's probably what he would do anyway. I don't know for sure though, because I don't have an answer for everything. But yeah. So, yep, so conventional tax will appear on the ballot this fall. So. Alright, well, let's see. So that's what happens anyway. Now, I found out, I want to tell you about something too. Anyway, so that's what he would do anyway. Let me know if you gotta vote yes or no on Prop 40, the Billionaire Tax Initiative. I don't know. I'm probably gonna either vote yes or no. It depends. You can let me know in the comments below anyway. if you oppose it or you support billionaire tax. You can let me know in the comments below. And you can let me know in the comments below if you support this bill here, the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. Or not, anyway. All you can do is call your local representatives and tell them to vote either yes or no on this federal bill. Anyway. And there's a bill I want to show you. So here's what I want to show you, a bill that I found out from Carl DeMaio from Reform, California. Yeah. This bill, called AB 567, Insurance Residence and Commercial. This bill has failed to pass the first committee. But that's okay. Hopefully we can try again to pass this bill. But, you know, at least well, at least you can try again. Yeah, you can try again to pass this. Hopefully the next administrative year. Yeah, it's called, yeah, insurance, that's no, and commercial. So it's supposed to be about insurance practices and Mexican law divides into classes, and life insurance and fire insurance and marine insurance. Yeah, all this. Anyway, let me know if you like Carter Miles' bill anyway. I called my local representative, Michelle Rodriguez, about it. Yeah, I think I support this bill too, even though it did fail to pass the first committee anyway. So, it's alright though. I know that Carter Miles is pissed off about this bill not passing anyway, and that's okay. You know. But hopefully you can get this bill passed in the next administrative year. You know, that's why. Anyway. Oh yeah, and everyone know. Yeah, I know. And yes, you probably already know the Kids Act already has passed the House, but the fight isn't over. Yep, just what you got to do is call your local representative. Tell them to do is to vote against these bad bills right here. To vote no on these bad bills over here. Yeah, that's the only way you can fight against age verification in the U.S. anyway. Until you won't vote, and until you won't vote until you lose my vote. If they support these bad bills anyways, I think that's all you can do anyway. And if you want to know how to go to heaven, you can watch my How to Go to Heaven video on Rumble or BitChute anyways. The way to go to heaven is to believe on Lord Jesus Christ for salvation. You know, that's why. Anyway, I have to go right now, but thank you for... Yeah, I'll let you read this to yourself as well. But anyway, I have to go right now. But thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. Say goodbye. Adios. Zaijian.